There is no doubt the true reason of Christmas is to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. The excitement and anticipation of Christmas felt by the young and old of today is just as strong as the day baby Jesus entered this world. Jesus was born in a manger in the city of Bethlehem from the Virgin Mary with her husband Joseph looking on. Once the great news was heard that the Son of God was born, people began to travel to welcome the child into the world. Jesus, his parents, the shepherds and the wise men gathered around the bleak manger besides animals and hay. This was not the desired location to birth baby Jesus, but this was all that was available. However, this location would later be imitated endless amounts of times as what we now call the nativity scene. The nativity scene was first created in Italy and was set up with golden figures of Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. But in the 13th century, St. Francis of Assisi thought to more accurately portray the poverty of Christ's birth and give meaning to all that dwelled under the roof of his manger.
The story of St. Francis and the nativity scene is really kind of natural and very kind of earthy. St. Francis was a real lover of nature, and so he would frequently try and get out of the busy town wherever he happened to be and go out into the countryside. And Greccio, which is way up in the Lazio region of Italy, it borders on Umbria, is a very mountainous region.
Francis wanted to return to the story of Christmas, wanted to display before people the poverty of Christ's birth, which went very well with the charism of the Franciscan community, which saw itself as devoted to the poverty of Christ.
Francis organized a live version of the nativity scene to humble the notion of golden images prior.
It wasn't always the exchange of gifts for him or the parties or the affluence of the time, but the humble birth of this child who is God. That is what Francis wanted, I think, to get to.
The townspeople had already known the story, of course. It had been repeated to them many times, but to actually live it out with real live animals, with real human beings, and with an infant in a crib was amazing to them.
With this live rendition, St. Francis of Assisi set the stage for nativity scenes for years to come, and setting the scene more accurately. Based on the facts surrounding Christ's deliverance, the manger should remain empty with the exception of Joseph and Mary until Christmas, when baby Jesus is added. The next day, one shepherd should be placed to mark the arrival of friends. Following in the beginning of January, the 3 kings are to be added, and the manger should remain untouched until February 2nd, which is the feast day of the presentation of the Lord.
One reason that the nativity took off as a practice or as an object is precisely because it was so simple. It sort of reminded people of all of the things that they had been hearing in church, but it made it a little bit more present to them. It's a real visual kind of experience.
Next, we'll crack open the global mystery. Who is Santa Claus? We'll review the life of St. Nick and where he got his name when we continue right here on Mysteries of the Church. Santa Claus, certainly an iconic figure, but where did he originate from? Many people think Santa is nothing more than a mythical figure created for the holiday season, and while it may be true that commercialism has allowed Santa to become the primary icon at Christmas, the man in the big red suit did at one time exist in the flesh. There is very little confirmation surrounding the early years of St. Nicholas before he was elected Bishop of Myra.
His early life is less well known. St. Methodius indicates in his biography of him that the bishop was orphaned at an early age, but had grown in the virtue of his parents. He was endowed with a certain amount of wealth, which he then broke up almost without any care for himself and put it into charitable causes.
Following the example of Jesus, he offered his wealth to the needy, the start of his generous persona. There have been many stories and legends surrounding St. Nicholas's generosity.
There's very little that we know about Nicholas other than that he was a man who was very concerned about the poor of his people, and stories abound, legends abound about St. Nicholas.
During St. Nicholas's time, it was common for a father to offer a potential suitor for their daughter a dowry, something of value to persuade the man into marriage.
St. Nicholas had a penchant for being in the right place at the right time. On one occasion, he is said to have been involved with a man who he learned had 3 daughters. The man had lost his job and was headlong into poverty.
In this story, the poor man could not offer anything of value, which would lead to his daughters being unwed.
And so the man was faced with literally prostituting his daughters. St. Nicholas heard this, and on one occasion, passing the man's house, had a sack of gold coins, which he threw into the window.
As legend has it, St. Nicholas on 3 different occasions tossed a sack containing gold into the man's window, falling into the daughters' stockings that were hanging by the fire to dry.
The man came out and found St. Nicholas. And so this is how we know that it was actually this bishop. Otherwise, he would have just drifted off into the night, and we never would have heard about this charitable act at all.
St. Nicholas was not a jolly round man, the keeper of the North Pole, nor was he the master of elves at a toy factory. So how did this generous saint transform into the Christmas icon we know today as Santa Claus? The legend of St. Nicholas's generosity has been present ever since his passing in 343 AD. However, it was the Dutch who were the ones that influenced the name of Santa Claus. Each year on the eve of St. Nicholas's feast day, December 6th, the Dutch incorporate into their festivities a traditional holiday figure known as Sinterklaas. Legend has it that when the Dutch migrated to America, the tradition of Sinterklaas came with them. Over time, the name molded and shifted from all the immigrant children mispronouncing his name and finally becoming the name we know today, Santa Claus. The imaginative portrayal of St. Nicholas continued to evolve in 1809 when Washington Irving published a satirical fiction titled Knickerbocker's History of New York. Descriptions and illustrations in the book transformed the saint into the character we know of today. Irving portrayed St. Nick as a man with a clay pipe and a broad-brimmed hat who flew over high above the treetops in a horse-drawn wagon, dropping gifts into children's chimneys. In 1822, Dr. Clement Clark Moore decided to elaborate on the image of Santa in his now classic poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, more commonly known as The Night Before Christmas. Moore decided to further elaborate the image of Santa Claus. Moore wrote, "He had a broad face, a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly." He even replaced Irving's original mode of transportation, a horse-drawn wagon with a sleigh being pulled by reindeer. Even with this colorful description of the look of Santa and his new and improved way of travel, what really shaped the image of Santa that we know today was through the help of Thomas Nast. Nast elaborated on the image of Santa by drawing him for Harper's Weekly magazine in 1862, by giving him a more gentler, more kind look compared to previous drawings depicting St. Nicholas. Also, He gave Santa Claus his home that we all know today as the North Pole. We've revealed some of the mysteries of Christmas and explored the reasons behind some of the traditions we carry out today. But in order to keep this holiday holy, we must remember where our traditions came from and know why we do the things we do to celebrate. Merry Christmas, and thank you for watching Mysteries of the Church.